Springbok captain Jean de Villiers is out of action for the next 8 weeks due to a knee injury. Joining me in studio is my favorite person, our Sport 24 editor, Garen, to talk about who might be replacing him in the interim. Thank you for sitting down with me.
Hi Jen, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad at all, thanks.
All right, we were talking about the interim captain for the Springboks in light of Jean de Villiers' absence. Who are the candidates leading up to Saturday?
Right, okay, so a little bit of background first. Jean de Villiers, he's hurt his knee. He's been carrying the knee injury for a while now throughout the Super Rugby,
right,
but he's finally been ruled out on doctor's advice. So he's out of action for 8 weeks. The Springboks have got 4 tests coming up, starting on Saturday the 7th against a World 15. Then we play Wales consecutive weekends, and then we play Scotland. These are the incoming tour matches in preparation for the Rugby Championships, which take place a little bit later in the year. So now we need a new captain.
We need a captain. Okay. We need a captain for Saturday.
For Saturday. well, next Saturday. So, you know, the short list is about 6 or 7 names. Realistically, the only 2 that really stand out as potential candidates, Bismarck du Plessis and Victor Matfield. Adrian Strauss was a candidate, but he's been banned for 3 weeks for a tip tackle, so he's no longer an option. They've got players like Frida Prayer, but he's coming back from Japan. He's not even certain of his position, so that rules him out, I think. Dwayne Vermeulen's been mentioned as well, the Stormers number 8, but again, he's not even necessarily the first choice number 8 in the team. So obviously we're looking for somebody whose position isn't under threat, who will definitely be one of the first 2 or 3 names on the Heineke Meyer's team sheet. So we're looking at those 2 candidates. They've both got pros and cons in selecting them as the skipper. If we start with Bismarck du Plessis, he's led the Sharks this season and he's done really, really well. The Sharks are top of the South African Conference, they're top of the overall standings, so he would be, a leading candidate for that position. He's, in the past he's had a little bit of a run-in with the authorities and the sighting commissioners. He's a little bit hot-headed at times, but he seems to have had that under control. He seems to have matured with the responsibility of leading the Sharks this season. So he'd be, a leading candidate. The other one, Victor Matfield, he's a little bit older, so very much an interim selection. He's 37 years old. He had retired from rugby, but was convinced to come back with looking ahead at the World Cup next year. So, but he's been sort of eased into the Bulls rugby, this season. He's, he hasn't played every match. He's been rested for a few matches. In fact, he's been rested this weekend for the Bulls' final Super Rugby game, which just tells me that he's not up to full fitness yet, and he's not guaranteed to start for the Springboks, and he's certainly not guaranteed to play all 80 minutes. So, but he would be like my second choice as captain. Obviously, nothing to say that the captain doesn't get injured in the match, then they have to replace him in the match. So those 2 are sort of the leading candidates at the moment. Obviously, nobody really knows what Heineke Meyer is thinking. He's obviously consulting with his fellow selectors as we speak, and the final squad and the captain will be named on Saturday evening after the final round of Super Rugby matches.
All right, so you have it down to 2, Victor Matfield or Bismarck du Plessis.
Right.
Who's your top pick?
If I was Heineke, I would go for Bismarck du Plessis, to be honest. I think because he's captained the Sharks this season, he's got the experience now, he's done really, really well. He'll be surrounded by Beeston Torreira and his brother Yanni du Plessis, who I expect to be the Springbok front row in any case. So, that sort of makes a better case for him being the skipper. He's thrown to Victor Matfield in the lineout plenty of times before. That won't be a new situation for him. I just think he's, even if Jean de Villiers, who's getting old in years nowadays, if he even decides to retire after the World Cup, which I expect him to do, Bismarck du Plessis could be, the long-term captain in any case. So this, I think, will be a good stepping stone for him. The World 15, 2 tests against Wales and Scotland, not the greatest opposition. So it's a nice time to sort of blood a new skipper in charge of the national team with an eye on the Rugby Championships against far better opposition in Australia and New Zealand. So I would go for Bismarck du Plessis for sure.
Okay, now remind me once more when the announcement's going to be made.
Right, it will be made on Saturday evening after the final round of Super Rugby matches, around about 9 o'clock South African time. We'll name the final squad and then obviously the skipper to play in those 4 tests starting the following Saturday.
Great, well we'll have a lot to talk about next week.
We will do. Thanks, Jen.